Hi, everybody. Thanks for checking out Mosaic Family Church's website. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my experiences with God. My name is Jeremy Walden. I grew up in Pensacola, Florida, moved to Auburn in 1997, and have been here ever since. But God has always been a part of my life in some form or fashion. Sometimes people say that faith is more caught than taught, and that was the way it was in my upbringing. My mother was a believer, and so I witnessed a Christian in action, a person of faith, a believer, my whole life. And what I remember most about my mother and kind of what she taught me is that faith wasn't just a belief system, but faith is something that you actually did. Say faith was something that you practiced. And yes, that involved going to church often. But more importantly for my mother, it meant serving people. And so I was constantly growing up witnessing my mother take care of sick people, provide food for people who needed food, provide clothes and food for people who needed it. She was always out there giving rides to people who didn't have rides, and I just witnessed all of that and knew that that's exactly what Jesus was like. And so that's what I learned from my mother, that faith isn't just something that you sit, or it's not a set of beliefs, um, but it's something that you actually do. And I love that about my mother. But I had an experience with my father, actually, that completely um, made my relationship with God much more important than even what I witnessed with my mother. My father was not a believer growing up, and when I was in high school, he became very, very sick and actually passed away during Christmas of my senior year in high school. And the after effects of that is it made me question a lot of things. It made me question God. It made me question life. It made me question my influence on my family and my friends, and even influenced me on what I wanted to do with my life. And so it made me ask a lot of big questions, and that forced me to re-examine the beliefs that I had been taught, and how important God really was to me, and made me ask questions about the afterlife. And anyway, it was just a turning point in my life because, in a very practical way, it stopped being theory and started being real life. This was an actual human being who lost his life, and what does that mean for me, and what kind of legacy do I want to leave? And so, right after that, I went to school to be a mechanical engineer at the University of South Alabama. And I realized my freshman year that for all practical purposes, the real reason I wanted that degree was for the money that it could make me. And because of the death experienced by my father, it made me re-examine whether or not that is something, if that was a great motive. And I came to the conclusion, because of my faith, that that's not a great motive. Money is wonderful, money is great, but it's not a great reason to pursue a career. And so from that moment on, I switched majors and ended up switching schools and became a minister after that. And then I was a minister for many, many years. And one other event happened. I met my wife, we got married, and 3 years after our marriage, we became pregnant with our first son. And that was a joyous occasion, also a life-altering kind of God moment, because it also made me ask those same questions over and over, knowing that I was about to bring a child into this world. What was life about? What does God want me to do? What does He want me to teach my son? And so it was one of those moments where I was searching for God, searching for answers. But we went to, as he was probably 6 or 7 months along in the womb, and we went to the doctor just for a routine checkup. They did an ultrasound, and they discovered that his kidney was 4 times bigger than it was supposed to be. And they immediately said, you need to go to Birmingham to the Children's Hospital to get this looked at. And as new parents, expecting parents, we were absolutely scared to death. And in that moment, we probably prayed harder than we had ever prayed before. So we set up an appointment. It was only a few days after that initial diagnosis. We got to Birmingham. They did another ultrasound with a Petter ultrasound machine in Birmingham, and they found nothing. And the doctor looked puzzled as to why we were sent there in the first place. And we saw it as an answer to prayer. We saw it as God taking an obvious physical problem that our son had, healing it way before he was ever born. And so we saw God work in our lives in that way. So those are just a few events that have definitely shaped me. The modeling of my mom's faith definitely influenced me. The death of my father, the birth of my first child, and I have 4 children now. So I've been through a few births, and every one of them changes me, and every one of them makes me reflect on my faith and how important God is in my life, and just to physically see God working is amazing. So thank you for checking us out.